Hey traders, Jason here from Levitt Brothers. So in this video, I want to talk about how I identify the best stocks. Specifically, I want to talk about like the weekly charts and what I look for in the weekly charts that tells me a stock has big upside potential. Okay, I'm going to go through a bunch of examples. I'm going to point out like little characteristics that I look for. Hopefully you can incorporate this into your own trading. All right, let's get to it. All right, so specifically what I'm looking for is I'm looking for a move up, an energetic move up on lots of volume. Then I'm looking for some sort of a fade or like volatility contraction on lighter volume. And then I'm looking to play the next explosive move. Okay, so here's AMD. First, look at the volume down here. Like, look how big that is. Big volume, big volume. All these big black volume bars, and notice the red bars. There's only a couple of them, and they're much smaller. Okay, so that's number one. So what we have here, we have like back-to-back up days on huge volume here. Then we have a couple quieter days. I define a volatility contraction as just simply the weekly range being smaller. Okay, so you get a big weekly range, and then the next week it's a smaller range. Maybe the week after it's an even smaller range. That to me is what I define as a volatility contraction. So you can see here we have back-to-back weeks where volatility contracts, and we have look at how volume has decreased. And then the stock takes off and goes again. And even after it goes again, you have back-to-back up weeks, huge volume here. We got this one down week, but volume was very light. So you have this candle right here is much smaller than the candle before. So you got volatility contracts on much lighter volume, and then the stock takes off again. Okay, so this is a great example because it shows you everything that I look for as far as energetic move up on big volume, volatility contraction, volume contraction, and then another ramp up. All right, here's Coinbase. Let's go through this. So starting here, we got a huge move up on volume. Obviously, you can see that. Notice the stock fades backwards. Okay, volatility contracts some, obviously much smaller than this big candle, but it fades backwards. Remember, we're looking for either like a volatility contraction or a fade backwards. Notice volume significantly dries up, and then it goes again. Okay, this is perfect. You get a move, you get a fade with a volatility contraction and a volume contraction, and then another move. That's exactly what you want to look for on the weekly chart. And in fact, you want to look for it on every chart. You can do this on the daily chart. You can even do it on like the hourly chart. Look for energy, look for a fade and a volatility contraction, and then look for another move. Here's Green Plains. Okay, notice how, so we get these back-to-back moves right here. Volume over here, very strong. Then it fades backwards. Notice volume drops back to being average. And notice we got these two candles right here, very, very small candles. That's perfect, okay? To get an energetic move off the low on strong volume, fades backwards, volatility contracts, volume contracts, and then boom, stock takes off. It's perfect. Here's Joby or Joby, I don't even know how to pronounce it. So you get three big up days, or I should say three big volume up days here. Then you get a very small candle right there. So your volatility contracts, volume right there, obviously much less than the 3 weeks before. And then we get a ramp up and the stock goes. Now, not every stock's going to do that, okay? Like this stock could easily have gone up to here and then pulled back. The fact that it went so much, the fact that it doubled is more luck than anything, but the characteristics are there. If you play a bunch of these types of setups, every so often you're going to get lucky and you're going to catch a runner, okay? Here's Meta, big, pounded out a low here. We got like kind of like a quadruple bottom here, moves up. Notice how, big volume on the way up, small volume there. We got back-to-back decent volume days, then a smaller volume day, a big volume day, smaller volume day. Okay, so in here you got much, all these tall black volume bars are telling. So starting over here, we got a big move up. Let me erase that. Starting right there, we got a big move up on volume. Then we have a move down, smaller candle, volatility contracts, volume over here is much lighter, and then we get the beginning of the next move up. All right, here is Oaklo. Okay, comes out of a base here, ramps up, obviously volume very, very strong here. Then we get a 3-week fade here where this candle, it's about the same as the one before, but this candle is obviously much smaller. This candle is even smaller than that. And you notice that this last down candle is very small. So towards the end over here, we get volatility contracts, volume here 2 weeks in a row, much lighter than it was the previous 4 or 5 weeks, and then we get a continuation up. So it's really this stock's a little bit more volatile, but you still have all the characteristics where a strong energetic move up on volume, you get a fade backwards, volatility contracts, volume contracts, and then it ramps again. Here's Redcat. Okay, stock pops here. We got boom, boom. We got back-to-back up days. Strong volume day on the way down. A little bit of a warning, but now we have back-to-back candles here where volatility contracts. The first one much smaller than the second, then the next one even smaller than that. Notice volume over here is teeny tiny. It's what you want to see. Stock ramps up, gives it all back, but then volatility contracts, volume contracts, and then it runs again. Here is Redwire. So stock ramps up over here. Volume is strong, volume huge. The first down day here, or down week, I should say. Volatility contracts here. Volume falls off. The volume over here, on this down day is much less than the previous 4 or 5 weeks. And then we get a move up over there. The fact that this thing went up and then came back down, irrelevant. Okay, the stock went from 15 to 20. That's a great move. Even if you're trailing a stop at 18, you still lock it in. I said earlier with Joby, sometimes you get lucky and you catch a runner. Oftentimes you get something like this where you actually get a solid 20-30% move, and then it gives it back. Some of it back, all of it back. Most of the time not all of it back because you're playing a really good chart. But if it gives it back, that's fine. You get stopped out along the way and you move on to the next trade. But all the elements are here, where it moves up, moves down, volatility contracts, volume contracts, and then it ramps again. Here's SMR. So it comes out of a base, huge volume over here on the way up. It fades backwards. Each one of these candles, like this candle is smaller than the one before, this candle smaller than the one before. So we got back-to-back small candles here. And volume contracts. So it's got the elements you want to see. An energetic move up, a fade backwards, volatility contracts, volume contracts, and then boom, it runs again. TSS, this is another one that just did really well. Basing here under 8, runs up huge. There was a gap in there. This is a weekly chart, so you can't see the gaps. Interweek, it hit a gap, volume huge. Then we get a much smaller candle, and then an even smaller candle than that on lighter volume and even lighter volume. So volatility contracts, volume contracts, and then it runs again. Okay, so a lot of people, a lot of traders, they get stressed. They don't know what to play. The universe of stocks is huge. There's thousands of stocks. There's even thousands of ETFs, lots of liquidity out there. And how do you narrow the list? Well, back up, look at the weekly charts, look for some tall black bars. That's evidence that institutions are getting involved. You want a stock that runs up with energy. You want a stock that fades backwards, volatility contracts, volume falls off, and then look for an entry to play it again. Okay. If you don't have the volume on the weekly chart, maybe skip it. Have some sort of filter system in place where instead of, being stressed and wondering which one should I play? Which one should I play? Should I play this one? Should I play that one? Every time I play a stock, it goes against me. The ones I don't play end up working out. Well, put it through a simple filter system. And this is a good one, is look for volume, look for an energy on a weekly chart, look for volatility to contract, and then play that. Because volatility contracts, you have a tight stop, and every once in a while you're going to hit a runner. And even if the stocks don't run, you tend to get at least a decent move and the opportunity to raise a stop to lock in some profits. I hope you got something out of this. We'll see you next time.